Hello, hello. If we haven't met yet, my name is Ted and I talk bass. I want to talk a little bit about the architecture of mastery. I'm having a lot of fun with Notebook LM, as you could see. So that's what this presentation was built on. But the content is inspired by my workouts and the workout that I had today, and how similar practicing an instrument is to going to the gym or having a workout. So again, if we haven't met yet, my name is Ted and I talk bass. So we're going to talk about the architecture of mastery, why the practice room is your gym. So first of all, there's this kind of fallacy. You've heard about the 10,000 hour rule, but just doing something for 10,000 hours does not mean mastery. You'll hear people say, well, I've been playing for 40 years. And a good friend of mine told me that their teacher said once, have you been playing for X amount of years, or have you been repeating week one or day one for several years? So that's something to keep in mind. Just because we're doing something over and over again does not mean that we're necessarily getting better. So we have the learning part. We're learning a move. We're learning a passage. We're learning a technique. Okay? So the learning is the onboarding. What is this thing that I'm learning? Practice is, how do I use this material, right? In a practical sense. Our goal is to play. Our goal is to be able to communicate with other musicians. Okay, so a lot of musicians just kind of noodle, make this random effort. Some people go to the gym. They don't know what to do. They go into the gym with no plan whatsoever. And what happens after a while is they quit, whether it be the gym or the instrument. So the bottom line is that effort does not equal progress, okay? Mastery is biological adaptation. Both systems rely on controlled stress and recovery to build neural or muscular strength. So what do we mean by that? When you are working out, there's protocols for exercises. How many reps can you do in an allotted amount of time? Or are you doing a particular exercise for reps? Now, if you're doing something for a certain amount of time, the thing that gets you progress, gets you results, is the form. If I've got a 30-second timer going and I can only do, how many push-ups can I do? Push-ups, for instance, would give you shoulder presses, whatever the exercise is. How many of them can I do in that amount of time with good form? I said in a video a couple of days ago that speed, for instance, is the byproduct of efficiency, right? So here's that idea laid out. If you're doing a chest or a tricep exercise, what is the protocol that you're using? There's a plan. Workout I did today, I was doing legs. So there's 3 blocks of exercises done 3 times each. So you get one block that's got 3 exercises in it. And there's a protocol that you follow for each one of those exercises. Now, a lot of those exercises are going to be compound movements. They work different things at the same time. If you're working on biceps, you're still working on core because your core is engaged in that exercise. You know what I mean? So things like technique, well, you might say, well, I need to work for bass players. Okay, technique, muting. Okay, well, muting falls under technique. So it's a compound movement, right? Everything you play has these elements of harmony, technique, rhythm baked into them at the same time. They're compound movements. But the key here is to have a plan, to go in with a plan. Whoops, we go back here. So just like I said, heavy lifting recruits, I can't talk. Heavy lifting recruits multiple muscle groups. Complex music requires chunking, breaking information down into units to reduce cognitive overload. And this is where my play here, see, explain framework comes in. If I'm chunking that first, now I know that is in treble clef for you bass players, I get it, but if you're just working on that first chunk, then we use that framework. Can I play it? Can I hear it? Can I see it? Can I explain it? Then we, for a allotted amount of time, and then we move on to chunk 2. And so then chunk 1 and chunk 2 come together as another chunk, right? Again, the gym, as many reps as possible with good forms, music consolidations, as many perfect executions as possible. Can you play it? The question isn't how fast, it's how reliable. Can you walk away from the instrument, come back, and play it again, right? And then, of course, you have to rest. I talked about the Thomas Sterner book in one of my last videos, and I'll link that somewhere around this video as well. But hours of unfocused practice will always be beat by short, focused practice. Let me say that the other way around. Short, focused sessions are always going to be better than long, mindless practice or noodling. All right? Always. Now, here's a concept that comes from education that has been around for years and years and years. I did not make this up, but we all kind of go through this same process. And I'm sorry about that white block there. The tools don't always get it right, but it's a beautiful graphic. Maybe we'll fix it later on. But when we start off, there's this unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. Then we get to conscious incompetence. That's where you have to embrace the suck. That's where you are made aware of the things that you don't know. All right. So when we get past that, and think about, if you think in your life, we all have something, even outside of music, riding a bike. I mean, you can ride a bike. You and I can ride a bike now. That's where the saying comes from, just like riding a bike. But imagine what kind of mental gymnastics you had to go through in the beginning to learn how to ride a bike. And then there's just, some people learn with training wheels, some people don't, but we've all been there, right? So there's conscious competence. Let's say you're riding that bike and you have to think, I should do this with my body or that with my body to stay up or to turn. You're thinking about it. In terms of an instrument, you may be playing and you're thinking, I'm in this key, I'm playing this scale, this note might work, this note might not work, or this lick or that lick, right? Where we want to get is into that flow state, that unconscious competence, and we can all get there. We can all get there if we're aware of these steps and trust the process, right? Another thing is getting mentorship or apprenticeship. I'm going to recommend another book. If there are two books that I could really recommend, and after I finish with this stream, I'm going to link them both. One is The Practicing Mind by Thomas Sterner. And the second book is called Mastery by Robert Greene, the same author of the 48 Laws of Power. Although Mastery is a much better and much more applicable book to most people's lives. I know 48 Laws of Power, everybody kind of likes to beat their chest like, yeah, I read this book. But read the Mastery book. I'll link it somewhere around this video. They are great books. But do you remember the apprenticeship phase of anything that you've done in your life? Maybe you were a tradesperson and you started off learning about a trade, and then you went to be an apprentice and then a journeyman, and you kind of moved your way up the ranks, right? So mastery requires apprenticeship. While I'm here, the internet is fantastic. I'm so glad to be alive in this time where I can speak directly to you and share my thoughts with you. But the internet cannot replace the centuries-old relationship between the student and the teacher. There's a different thing when there's a student and teacher. I'm thinking about teachers that I have had over the years: Glenn Richmond, Pat Clovis, bass teachers, Mike Wilcox. There's a few, but don't forego that. Okay, don't forego submitting to instruction. Submitting is a complex word sometimes. But so back to this gym analogy. In the gym, results come from quality under constraint. You go there with a protocol. Have you ever gone to the gym and you're like, all I know is I'm going to the gym and I don't know what I'm going to do. And then you wind up walking on the treadmill, but you never see any results from the treadmill because you don't understand that walking on the treadmill alone, it's good to be moving, but it doesn't really do anything. What does work is intervals where you are walking at a certain pace, you ramp up your heart rate. Does that make sense? So that's a constraint. If you are into free weights, well, how much weight do I lift? And, for us guys, sometimes we go in the gym and we say, I'm going for it. I'm going to lift the heaviest thing possible. And then we wind up getting injured. So it's quality over quantity, right? But we have to have a framework. Last night I talked about grooves, bass grooves, and talking about the groove. If the groove were a box, you could see like the framework of the groove and then put other things inside of that. You see what I'm saying? But we have to have some sort of constraint and metric. In music, mastery comes from quality execution under constraint. All right. So what I want you to think about in terms of getting better on your instrument, this is a bass channel. So most of the people watch this channel are bass players. Have a clear goal. What muscle are you training? Then deliberate practice. I got 10 minutes to practice what I'm going to do. Okay? Remember that play, hear, see, explain framework? Where are the errors? Get used to detecting those errors quickly, right? And then walk away. Then walk away and rest. Practice in short burst, rest, come back. Let your brain reset. I know that when I'm playing or practicing, sometimes when I'm in the middle of a live stream, sometimes I'm like, okay, you can recognize when your brain is foggy or, when you just need to turn things off and go take a break. All right. So mastery It isn't a function of genius. It is a function of time, focus, and design. I really hope that that made sense. And if it doesn't, if you have more questions about this, let me know in the comments. If you've been around here, welcome to new subscribers. If you've been on this channel around here any length of time, you know, if you hit me with a comment or a question, I'm gonna get to you personally as soon as possible. Playing the bass guitar or any other instrument, I don't think is as hard as we sort of give it meaning in our brains. We just need to have some constraints, right? We need to have a way to look at this goal and reach the goal, but the key is goal. I want you to keep your eye on this space, because we're going to be talking about practice, intentional practice, a lot more over the next coming months. We got some things that I'm excited about. Also, I'm going to encourage you to check out Bass Note Master. You can do that absolutely for free. There, you'll see changes and stuff coming in. There's videos going up. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes over there at Bass Note Master. The cool thing is that it isn't a subscription. It's a one-time payment. And if you want to reclaim your fretboard, check out bassnotemaster.com. All right? It ain't rocket science. It's pocket science. I'll catch you next one. Peace.